We are here with another exciting episode of Meat Unshackled. I'm going to let our audience, our panelists, introduce themselves. So first, so you guys know who we're talking to, and first I'll start with Adam. I have a way of doing this with the mics because we only have 2 mics, not 4. So Adam.
Yep. How's it going? I'm Adam Pressler Smith. I'm here representing Turn today, and we're a top vape brand coming out of California, and we're also in Arizona, Florida, and we just recently launched in New York.
Hey everybody, I'm Mark Rotondi. I'm a product manager at CCell. I've been with the company for 6 months now. Been in the vape industry for almost 3 years and cannabis for 8 years.
Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Tracy. I'm with Green Guard Advising. My background is in laboratory testing, laboratory vetting, also helping folks with legislative and regulatory work on the state level. But certainly have plenty of experience when it comes to working with vape brands and as it relates to manufacturing, distributions, and all the things that matter in the vape world.
So what we have over here, and Ryan is co-moderator for this one, is we have 2 of the premier experts in vape technology, vape pen manufacturing, vape pen history, vape pen evolution. And we have myself, who's an ex-prosecutor, who understands a lot of things. I didn't even know what a vape pen was in 2012. So just let me start with one quick question. When were vape pens invented? Do you guys know, like the origins of that?
I think there's a patent that goes all the way back to about 1912, to be honest. You can look with that.
I
That
really
year
knew the answer. Holy shit.
that year may not be exactly accurate, but that's around the time period we saw patents starting going out for these things.
So vape pens have been around for like 100 years.
Yeah, definitely.
And they vape pens first started
Well,
becoming...
the ideas of them, at least.
But when did they start first becoming popular?
So go ahead. You can answer it. I'm just getting ready for your next one.
Sure, yeah. I'm going to be a little biased on this. 2016, when we released our first ceramic heating core, I would say that's really when the industry started to really take a hold. We set a precedent with the first ceramic heating core for cannabis oils, and that's how CCell really became such a good brand name for vapes, and then started getting their reputation for reliability. It's really hard to find someone who's been in the space a long time who doesn't know who CCell is and hasn't smoked a few CCell carts down to the bottom themselves. So,
Yeah, and that was in right around the same time in my past life when I was with Select, and when we used CCell for forever when we were getting that brand started. And then I think, since then, the technologies continued to evolve as the oils have continued to evolve, and I think that's been one of the main things for any of the hardware companies is being able to stay in front of that and to have that relationship with the brands that they work with, so they can keep R&Ding and redeveloping and improving the technology, so it's a better experience for the consumer.
Yeah, I think we have seen a lot of steps further in the technology space as far as delivering the product. I think you guys bring incredibly unique product, the way that you present it in your pod fashion, right? Can you guys talk about kind of some of the unique technology that led to you to use that pod methodology of delivery and why you feel that's better than perhaps maybe some of your competitors?
For sure, definitely.
That was a good question, co-moderator.
I might have done this once or twice.
I think one of the big pieces of that technology is the true taste technology. So what that battery can do is that any one of our pods, whether it be a distillate pod, a live resin pod, or a live rosin pod, the moment it is inserted into the battery, then it adjusts the temperature so that the oil is preserved. You get the right flavor profile. And because the last thing
that's super important, because you talked about 3 or 4 different types of oil, right?
Right.
So the temperature in all of those, it's going to vary as far as the best flavor, right? The best efficacy, all the things that you would want out of the product, right? Is that why you do that, or is there a different reason why you modulate the temperature like that?
No, totally. It totally depends on the oil because of the different viscosities and also what that terpene profile, how it's going to perform to the consumer. And that also correlates to the price and the investment that the consumer has. The last thing you want is somebody to invest into a live rosin, device, and then be into a situation to where they burn their oil, right? And then it's a horrible experience for the brand, for the consumer, and for the hardware.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there a product? Did you start in the distillate and then expand into the other different types of oils?
Yeah, we started in distillate and then evolved into live resin and then into live rosin.
And then have you stayed strain specific? Because I know there's a lot of people out there that want to throw fancy names on them or try to brand the vape itself, but have gotten away from some of those names that everyone's most familiar with, right? That everyone has heard and loves and can associate to a good effect or a good flavor or good therapeutic outcome if it's medical. How do you go about addressing that challenge?
So on the distillate side, what we do is that we really try and stay true to try and make it fun for the consumer and come up with great flavors and great names where they can interact with and really enjoy that experience. And then on the live resin side and live rosin, we stay true to the strains because that's what that type of customer is looking for from a connoisseur perspective.
And it is just purely like when you're going through the distillation process, does it stay truly that strain? Because there's a lot of people that they go and they test a strain and they want to match terpene profiles, right? They say, oh, it's going to taste like sour diesel. Right. But they didn't use sour diesel to get to the end product.
You got to stay true to the strain.
That's incredible because there's a lot of people not doing that. So that's a huge point of quality identifier in my opinion.
Absolutely.
For terms. So
okay, awesome. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I moved to admit them as subject matter experts. That was really good. Let me get to Mark. You interrogated him. That was like
I mean, he has a great product. I think he needs to expand on
my legal career. I'm like, he's co-counsel. Right. He's got that witness. Now I've got this one. So Mark, now you're on the hot seat.
Right.
Okay, so you guys, I want to know now. C-Cell 3.0. We've heard you guys have evolved to the perfect products. Talk a little bit about the history, the evolution, what went wrong along the way, and what you have learned, and where you guys are at now.
It's as you said, 3.0 has been in development for about 6 years. Started in 2018 when we had the idea to do something different, something not based just on porosity, which is where most ceramics are based off. And essentially, just to explain that, it's how you make holes in ceramics, and that's how the oil passes through them. And that process is a bit inconsistent in vaporizers, to say the least. So we wanted to do something that was a bit more precise, so we really understood oil flow through the ceramic to the coil, really be able to control that to slow down clogging, slow down leaking, even more than our already really low standards. And that was difficult to do because, one way you could do that is use equipment to make those holes, but we didn't want to just have a manufacturing process that was taxing to the environment, all those kind of things. So we came up with a really eco-friendly type of material that creates those pores in the ceramic. They can do it exactly the same every single time. And through that, we can get a ceramic core that is extremely consistent, way more than any other ceramic in the marketplace. And I'm
going to hand him the mic because he's going to jump in and cross-examine you.
No, I'm going to let him finish, but I just came up with a follow-up that I thought was good. Go ahead.
Sure. And then the additional act of it, part of the C-Cell 3.0 is the temperature control aspect with the coil itself too. So we've now gone into a different material. We have temperature control properties within the coil itself. We don't use any. We wanted to keep materials down, really. We didn't want to add in chips and, make temperature control really just only with all-in-ones, which is where you see it, or with batteries for cartridges. We wanted also the cartridges themselves to have to be able to have temperature stabilization. We didn't want to use a bunch of extra materials to do that. We want to keep the material footprint as small as we could. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where a lot of our North Star is, how we think as a R&D and a manufacturing team. How do we just do things as simple as we can, but still be able to deliver an exceptional, modern, innovative experience, right?
From like a scientific background, I guess, and not to get too complicated, but can you touch a little bit when you talked about when you talked about the ceramics part of it? Yep. There's been evolution where we started in cheap coils, right? And people were pumping out stuff with all kinds of metal leaching, and who knows what you're getting in the process of actually vaping your product, right? So can you kind of go into why the ceramic portion of it is important and why the temperature control specifically is important for the end user?
Sure. Well, I think
good question.
For one answer to that is when we think temperature control, we think just what is the temperature of a vaporizer. You have to do it in relation with the oil supply as well. You can't just measure the coil temperature in a vacuum, and the temperature is going to be a lot higher than you expect because there's nothing there cooling it off.
So like the point of contact of the oil, not where it's reading, but where it's actually vaporizing the material and what you're inhaling.
Well, no, what I specifically mean is how the coil, what temperature is the coil when oil is on it and vaporizing. So not just an empty tank or an unfilled cartridge or that kind of thing. temperature is dependent on oil supply. And why that's important is because all ceramics don't deliver oil supply as good as the others. Some are poor porosity. They come, they're just off-the-shelf solutions from whatever supplier. There's dry hits. Everybody's heard of a dry hit. A dry hit can send temperature way through the roof, and that's what causes a lot of the burning on cotton, burning on ceramics, starts making ceramics brittle, unsafe, those kind of things. So oil supply is so important, not just say you're using a stainless steel coil or whatever. You have to have, and oil supply is really the trick, is cannabis oils are so difficult to vaporize. The surface size of a vaporizer is extremely small. The atomizer is extremely small compared to like an e-rig or things like that. So it's way more difficult to get this temperature really under control in a vaporizer platform. So that's where a lot of that time went. A lot of that time of, when we talk about 6 years, yes, it's a lot of our team overseas. It's our team in the USA, engineers on both sides, looking and studying this core through with all of our equipment to make sure we have it in the best possible place by release. Yeah.
So here's a tough question. The perfect vape experience that you can dream or you can imagine or innovate to a level, 100. 1912, 0. Where are we at now as a number? And what would you, if somebody had said, I give you all the resources you need to improve to get to that 100, what would you change? What would you improve on? What would you focus on in regards to the technology out there? Is that okay?
Magic wand.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah, right.
So give me a number, and then what you think of what you want to change, and I'll let you guys discuss between yourselves.
For us as a brand, I think the biggest obstacle or thing that we still run into is when we're dealing with different environments, and when we're dealing with people leaving their device in the car, or people being in a hot environment such as Las Vegas in the summertime, or when you're in Arizona, and when the device leaks, and that's where I think that we can continue to improve. If you go back early on in the vape space, people were hesitant to buy a 1 gram because it was going to clog, it was going to leak, it was going to fail.
You wouldn't get half of it.
Right, yeah. You wouldn't get it. And to the brand, that puts your major cost of goods higher, because now you're spending the same amount on your hardware, and you have to sell twice as much as that to make the same amount of money. Now I think there's been a lot more reliability in those advancements. So I think, in a long-winded way to come back around, I'd say we're probably at like a 7 or an 8 right now. And I think that we can continue to go to get to that 10.
Okay, so 70, 80 gets 100.
Correct.
Yeah, same scale.
So
I just broke it down.
Order of magnitude.
Hey, you made it short.
Yeah, and I also think
Efficiencies.
that as we continue to evolve, and as research continues to evolve, we're going to get better and better in understanding terpenes and how the different oil viscosities and how all that can perform to continue to improve a great experience.
When you started, did your two brands work together specifically in developing the product, or was it later on after you've already existed for a little bit?
To my knowledge, when I joined Select, we were working very closely with C-Cell.
Okay.
In terms of getting the most reliable hardware that we could for our consumers.
Because Turn specifically is so unique. So I just wonder where you came up with the pod and the development and that, and how that kind of transpired.
So on the Turn side, I mean, the credit really goes out to our founders, Robert Brandon and Nathan Davitt, for what they've been able to do and where their creative minds is in terms of what's going to be great for the consumer and how can we make this something that becomes part of the consumer lifestyle. Like, what was really eye-catching for me when I got introduced to Turn was when I looked at my nightstand and my wife's nightstand, and I saw our keys, our wallet, our AirPods, and then we had our Turn pods there. And at that point, I was like, all right, this hardware is definitely sticky. It's something that becomes part of your life.
Put it up here.
And that was something that really drew me to the company.
That's awesome.
All right, so Mark, where are we at now? 1912, 0 to 100. And what's the future hold? Because I mean, you guys are like the Kodak of cameras in the 1970s, right? And might go digital. There might be a shift. You got to keep up. Right now, you guys are the standard.
Okay, well, my first answer to that is going to be, again, a little biased to C-Cell. I think we've just made another big leap with technology, and that's C-Cell 3.0. I mean, this is, again, you're not seeing a ceramic in the market that achieves this level of manufacturing. We're going into a world of temperature control, dynamic temperature control, where now consumers, Vape devices, they have a blinker, they shut off in about 10 seconds. But C-Cell 3.0, we've actually tested it up to 30 seconds of puffing with stable temperature. So we've just made a great leap. Going beyond ceramics and a heating of a coil, there's probably a future ahead of that. And what that looks like when it starts to arrive, I can't really, I would just be spitballing completely. It'd be a complete gamble to guess when that's going to come. But I can let everyone be rest assured that any technology you see or kind of think about, or something that's really interesting that may be on the horizon, C-Cell is looking at it.
Leading the charge.
So how does that work in terms of like, does the temperature and the heating of the coil, does that change based upon the oils, or how exactly does that technology break down?
No, it doesn't change upon it would only change upon the oil if for some reason there was not a fantastic oil supply to the coil. But no, it doesn't change based on the oil type. Essentially what's happening is the coil itself is changing its resistance over time. So the coil, like previous coils, like maybe nichrome or canthol, things like that, they're going to have a different temperature curve. So they're actually, the resistance is not going to adjust as they get hotter and hotter and hotter, because they don't keep themselves stable.
Right. They
just keep going. So our coil actually will adjust the resistance over time. So 1 second, 2 second, 3 second, and it will just keep it stable all the way until the puff duration is over.
And that's great, because as you look at, as more consumers come in to the cannabis space, you get a lot of other like nicotine vape users and things like that are coming in new to the cannabis space. And the big feedback that you get as a vape operator in the cannabis space is, how come I can't get big clouds, or how come I can only draw so much? Yep. Which, even though it's a different oil, so your experience is a lot different when you're taking those long rips, something like that, and being able to improve that the amount of time somebody can take a pull is going to be great for the consumer experience.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's so many other things going on with C-Cell 3.0 that is exciting, like TPM's higher, vapor production's higher. We're achieving lower temperatures. So, I mean, these are huge. Previously, to get bigger vape clouds in cards, so back in 2016, 2017, you had to ramp up the heat to do that.
And then you're frying your terpenes, and the plate
all
profile,
the quality
oil,
goes out there.
Everything goes out the window.
Exactly. So, I mean, now we're here with technology that can keep the temperature low and produce more clouds than ever before. We have previous generations of atomizers, which are great. They're still on the market today, and many people buy them. But with 3.0, we're now being able to take the TPM higher than we've ever done it before. And I think that the end result, what we hear from people who've tried it, is that the experience is smoother. And what makes it smoother? It's that there's faster vapor delivery. It's a cooler cloud. There's less coughing going on. That improvement is there. Now, is there a place that's perfection where no one ever coughs? And again, it's a maybe.
Right.
If that's what we want.
It has been our pleasure introducing you to our audience, and I'm sure everybody's going to reach out to all three of you, because you're clearly
they're the ones that do it.
I'm surprised how much you know
another job as a moderator somewhere.
I know.
Well, I'm passionate about the products, and I actually do specifically like your product, and more specifically, there's a lot of things that need to be addressed in vaping, and I love to hear the lower temperature, focusing on the quality and the delivery and the experience of the person is awesome.
And if you want to hear that, you're going to have to reach out to him after the show, because we are on time limits.
Yeah, let's get out of here.
So, but Mark, C-Cell, thank you very much. Adam, Turin,
thank you.
The contact info will be beneath the. We have a way of producing these things, and all the contact info comes out. So reach out to them. They're absolute experts on this. And Ryan, thank you for jumping in as a co-moderator who's an absolute expert on this subject as well.
If you need me, I'm here.
Thank you guys, and enjoy your MJ BizCon.
Absolutely.
Right, thanks. Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.